Second edit. Thank you for all the support. It's funny how many nice and supportive comments there are, and a little scary how downvoted they get. Thanks to all the sweethearts, I got my perspective. Edit. It's barely been hours after posting this. Still, I feel a great sense of relief and sadness, as well as clarity. What becomes clear after writing and reading responses is that it was definitely rap, especially after Danish law, which is where I live. I have a very clear understanding of what rap is, but as this was my own experience, I couldn't see it from the outside. Writing the post and seeing responses gave me perspective. Saying the word no is not required. There should be no coercion, no convincing, and both parties should very clearly want it for it to be intimacy. Otherwise, it is attack at the very least. I am horrified by how many think it's not a man's responsibility to check in with his intimacy partner and be aware of consent and desire. Intimacy is not the absence of refusal. It is the presence of acceptance. Thanks to all for supporting. Feel free to ask questions and please seek support from friends or even from Reddit if you have experienced anything similar. I, 33-year-old female, recently started questioning my past. Mind you, this is 15 years ago, so things are hazy. I'm 18 and with my 3 best friends, 2 females and 1 male, at my ex's house. We're all about the same age. We'd kissed and dated 2 years prior, but only for a week as I regretted the decision and broke up with him. Since then, he has chased after me wanting to sleep with me. He is spending the evening pestering me, keeps asking if we shouldn't have intimacy, and saying things like, "You don't know if you'll like it until you've tried." I keep saying no, but don't want to be rude and ruin the mood of the get-together. At some point, he catches me alone and keeps going. Eventually, I say fine. He wastes no time in ushering me to his bedroom, where I am led in first. That's when I think, I really don't want this. I turn around to tell him, then realize he is between me and the closed door, and his pants are already coming off. I remember thinking, it's easier to get it over with. I don't recall anything until he is on top of me, and I can feel nothing from the waist down. I remember just keeping my focus on his biceps, as it was the only part of him I found attractive. And I remember a common German saying in my head, eyes closed and get through it. I remember dressing as quickly as possible, just wanting to find my friends. And when I get to them, I start crying. When he finally appears, I pretend as if nothing has happened and move on. For years on end, I've been saying it wasn't anything but regretful intimacy. But yesterday, I was watching Anatomy of a Scandal with my husband, and it dawned on me. This is not the only incident either. I remember another time with a friend where I can only recall being on all fours and just hoping it was over. In both instances, I definitely didn't want it. However, I'm not sure how clearly I've said no. I know I have not been an active participant. We're talking starfish, and I know I haven't been asked. I'm happily married to a person, 37-year-old male, who is tender, attentive, and empathetic about me in all regards. We have a 10-year-old daughter. I don't want to press charges, but I want to know if I have been repressing this. I want to know so I can teach my daughter more about consent, so I can protect her. Please help me understand this. Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1. Looking at this purely from a legal perspective, not a moral one. This would at the time not qualify as rap. Denmark has had some really inadequate laws when it comes to rap. Until now, Danish law has not defined rap on the basis of lack of consent. Instead, it used a definition based on whether physical violence, threat, or coercion was involved, or if the victim was found to have been unable to resist. They did, however, change this a few years back to require verbal consent from both parties, and under the new PC, it qualifies as rap. That being said, forget that guy. This would qualify as rap in most other countries. Comment 2. I'm not sure I would call it rap in a legal way, but I definitely wouldn't say this is just a case of you regretting it. We are conditioned not to make a scene, not to rock the boat, to behave. Your reaction to his behavior is tied to that. It's why people, especially men, need to have the concept of enthusiastic consent drilled into their heads. A woman that's been badgered over and over until she finally gives in is not giving enthusiastic consent. And no decent guy would behave like that. Now, for the update, thank you for sticking with me through this. So, I've been doing a lot of thinking and talking with my husband about my past. It's been a rough few days. We've been trying to figure out how to talk to our daughter about consent and respect, and it's been bringing up a lot of old feelings for me. My husband has been amazing, listening and supporting me. Just yesterday, something happened that really shook me. My daughter came home from school and told us about a boy in her class who kept trying to hold her hand, even after she said she didn't want to. She was confused and a little scared, and it hit me hard. It was like looking into a mirror of my past. I realized I had to deal with my own experiences to help her. We sat down as a family and had a long talk about boundaries and respecting other people's feelings. My husband was great, explaining things in a way our daughter could understand. It was a tough conversation, but I think it was really important for all of us. But that's not even the half of it. Today, I ran into one of my old friends from that night at my ex's house. We hadn't seen each other in years. She brought up that night, and it turns out she had a very different perspective on what happened. She said she could tell something was off with me after I came out of the room, but she didn't know what to do. She felt guilty for not stepping in. Hearing her say that, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. It wasn't just in my head. Someone else saw it too. We talked for a long time, and she apologized for not helping me back then. I told her it wasn't her fault, but I was glad we could talk about it now. And then, the most unexpected thing happened. My ex, the one from that night, he reached out to me. He said he heard I'd been asking questions about the past and wanted to talk. I was hesitant, but I agreed to meet him in a public place. We met at a coffee shop, and it was so strange to see him after all these years. He looked different, but also the same. He started off by apologizing. He said he's been in therapy and is trying to make amends for his past behavior. He admitted that what he did to me was wrong, and he's been living with the guilt. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream at him, but another part of me felt sorry for him. It was a lot to process. I told him I appreciated his apology, but I needed time to think about everything. After that meeting, I felt a mix of emotions, angry, sad, but also a little bit of closure. It's been a long 3 days, full of ups and downs. But I feel like I'm starting to understand my past a little better, and I'm learning how to protect my daughter and teach her about the world. Thank you for reading. My fiance's cousin spreads lies about me cheating. So I cancel the wedding, take the job at Harvard, and leave him questioning his life choices. Hello, Reddit. I, 29-year-old female, find myself in a complicated situation and could really use some outside perspectives. My fiancé, 29-year-old male, and I have been engaged for 2.5 years, in a relationship for 2 years prior, and friends since 2017. Coming from a conservative culture, we've never lived together or been on traditional dates. Our relationship was built on phone calls, texting, and seeing each other at work since we were college students and later colleagues. He pursued me for years with every romantic gesture you can imagine, until I consented to a relationship, leading to our engagement. However, due to my cultural background, our physical interactions have been limited, and frankly, I've never felt a strong attraction to him, a feeling that's only intensified over time. I recently spent 18 months in the States for studies, where our relationship continued. But his clinginess and controlling behaviors, like setting up a tracker on my phone linked to his Gmail without my knowledge, became more apparent. Despite appreciating his effort to stay in touch across time zones, his constant need for reassurance and lengthy calls left me exhausted. Sometimes I go out with my friends, and he would call constantly until I answer him, and my last straw was a few weeks ago when I told him I don't want to talk, and he ended up calling me 32 times and also reached out to my friends. Returning home has been pressured by expectations to get married and settle down, a decision fast-tracked by leaving a promising research position at Harvard due to familial and societal pressure. But when we reunited, I felt nothing during our physical interactions, as if I was with a sibling rather than a partner. Despite never acting on it, I've felt attractions to others, signaling to me that my feelings for him aren't what they should be for a life partner. Another aspect is his constant love bombing. He tells me he loves me more than 20 times a day, and every other word seems to be about how much he misses me. He always says that what hurts me hurts him too, yet I feel pressured whenever I share my feelings with him. For instance, when discussing my apprehensions about reverse cultural shock and my unhappiness about returning home, he took it personally, suggesting that I wasn't looking forward to seeing him. He always tells me that he sacrificed too much with me being away for 18 months. I feel like I'm in debt. He proceeds by explaining to me how great of a man he is for putting up with all my emotional turmoil and instability. With our wedding looming and pressure mounting from both our families, I'm torn. A small voice inside me screams, "This is a mistake." But the weight of cultural expectations and years invested in this relationship hold me back. Should I listen to my gut and call off the wedding, facing the potential fallout with our families and my own doubts? Or do I proceed, hoping my feelings change with time? Any advice, insights, or personal experiences would be greatly appreciated. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. A decision fast-tracked by leaving a promising research position at Harvard due to familial and societal pressure. I'm so sorry you felt pressured into doing this. People who love and care about you would be so proud of your accomplishments and give you all the support in the world. Heck, I don't even know you, and I'm so proud of you. Honestly, listen to your gut. If you are able to leave your country and go back to the States, do it. Block that man. Make sure he doesn't track you anymore. Move on. It won't be easy, but I think it will be better for you in the future. Comment 2. Gil, no. I'm the same age as you, coming from a closed culture as well. I am a criminal researcher in a good university in another country and live my best life with my supportive partner. When I was 22, I made the same mistake you are about to make, and he only got worse until he became hurtful. At 26, I left with reports to the police. My life is good now, but it would have been so much better earlier. It's like I had a huge rock on my back weighing me down. He will become worse. He is not the one. Do not do it. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more of my mess. So, my fiance's cousin, let's call her Sarah, has always been a bit of a hectic card. She's the type who stirs the pot just to watch it spill. Sarah's been jealous since we announced our engagement, always making snide remarks. But last month, she took it to a whole new level. She started a rumor that I was seeing someone else while I was in the States. It spread like wildfire, and before I knew it, everyone was looking at me sideways, whispering behind my back. My fiancé, of course, confronted me. I denied it because it wasn't true, but he was already wound up tight from Sarah's poison. He demanded to see my phone, my emails, everything. I was so tired of the mistrust that I just handed it all over. I thought it would calm things down, but it only made it worse. He found an old photo of a study group that had a guy in it and lost it. He wouldn't listen when I said it was nothing. Then, out of nowhere, my old boss from Harvard called. They had a position open up, a perfect fit for me, and they wanted me back. I was torn. It was my dream job, but going back meant calling off the wedding, dealing with the fallout, and basically starting over. I was leaning towards taking the job, but then my fiancé did something unexpected. He apologized, said he overreacted, that he trusted me, and that he'd been talking to a therapist about his clinginess and jealousy. He even suggested we do premarital counseling together. It sounded so good, so reasonable. I wanted to believe that things could get better, that we could work through it all. So I turned down the job offer. I told myself it was the right thing to do for us, for our families. But then, Sarah's actions came to light. My fiancé's sister caught her bragging about the rumor she started. There was a huge family fight, and Sarah was exposed for the liar she was. My fiancé was furious with her, but the damage was done. People still looked at me funny, and I could tell some didn't quite believe the truth, even after Sarah admitted to lying. The wedding was back on track, but the atmosphere was tense. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, trying to prove my innocence to everyone. It was exhausting. And deep down, I knew I had made the wrong choice. I should have taken the job, left all this drama behind. But now I was stuck, playing the dutiful fiancé, smiling and nodding while resentment simmered inside me. I keep thinking about that job, about the life I could have had. But here I am, preparing for a wedding I'm not sure I want, to a man I'm not sure I love, surrounded by people who aren't sure they trust me. It's a mess, and I'm right in the middle of it. Thanks for reading. My friend's secret Reddit account revealed his true views on women, and he begged for money. So I lent it, and when he vanished, I tracked him down and made him sell everything to pay me back and learn respect. Me, 30-year-old female, and my friend, 33-year-old male, often share funny things we found on Reddit with each other, and joke a lot about how no one gives out their Reddit usernames to people they know in real life. He's joked before about how I'll never get his because it would be embarrassing. Well, the other day he sent me a screenshot of a Reddit post, and I noticed he'd accidentally revealed his username. I thought this was an exciting gotcha moment and searched for him, hoping to find something mildly embarrassing I could tease him about. Turns out, he had been logged into his NSFW account, and presumably not his main. It wasn't anything too bad, really, but I now know way too much about my friend. He posts lots of comments encouraging women to leave jobs or studies, to do corn or just be sluts, and to get lots of surgery to ideally look like intimacy dolls, which is the ultimate aim, it seems. He has posted a lot about how great it is to see women giving up trying to do intelligent, worthwhile things and instead just embracing being sexy for men like good girls. I know that a lot of Reddit is roleplay, and that he's probably not giving real advice, and these women he's replying to are probably not asking for it either. NSFW subs are not where people go to be told their breasts are big enough already, or maybe they should finish computer school. Also, fantasy is fantasy, and I'm not here to kink shame anyone, especially as I've never gotten the impression he doesn't respect women. But I'm finding it hard to see him the same now I know this about him, especially as he doesn't even know I know it. I've also realized his tone in these posts is exactly the same as when he's talking to other people about more mundane things, which means I'm reminded of it every time we talk or he gives advice. Everyone has kinks, and I'm sure I have other friends with more extreme, more controversial ones that I will thankfully never know. But I am finding myself questioning every interaction in case it's a sign he doesn't respect me or thinks I should be just an intimacy object because of my gender. How do I get past this? TLDR. Accidentally found my friend's Not Safe for Work, NSFW, Reddit account, and discovered he posts about women getting surgeries and leaving work for corn, and how women should want to just be intimacy objects. I can't get over knowing this about someone and can't help questioning our interactions. Edit. I haven't replied to every comment, but just wanted to say a huge thanks to everyone who has replied on either side. It's validating to see other people would also find this unsettling, but it's also really helpful seeing the explanations about the distinction between fantasy in NSFW subreddits and actual attitudes towards women. I'm going to try to forget about this all and file it under things I have no business knowing, unless I get any indication it's more than just that. Also, yeah, I'm a total idiot for looking for his account and really shouldn't have done that. I was just hoping for an old outfit check or a bad take on Donnie Darko. I've learned my lesson now. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You found your friend playing out a fantasy. Fantasies often don't represent how we think and act outside the bedroom. I guarantee you that if you had full access to the intimacy lives of your female friends, you would find plenty of them thinking about being helpless, submissive intimacy objects. That kind of fantasy is incredibly common, including in powerful, independent women who would never actually let it affect the rest of their lives or how they think about themselves or other women. That doesn't mean they actually want to be helpless and powerless or think you should be. For that matter, many men and women have actual rap fantasies, but that doesn't mean they literally want to be rapped for real. It's just a hot fantasy when you're aroused. It may be the same for this guy. Let him keep his fantasy behind locked doors, where it was supposed to stay, and don't assume that his kinks are representative of his entire outlook. Comment 2. Does your friend do this on subreddits open to this playing out of a kink? Or does your friend do this to random women who didn't ask about it? The difference between the two is that your friend either participates in his kink in places made for it, or to women who didn't want to participate in it. If it's the first, you could trust he knows the place for kink and for the rest of his life. But if it's the latter, I would be uncomfortable as well. This comes from a woman who participates in these types of kinks herself. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since the last post. So, after I found my friend's NSFW account, I tried to shake it off, but things got weirder. He started acting off like he was hiding something. I couldn't help but wonder if he knew I'd seen his account. Then, out of nowhere, he asked me to help him with a business venture. Turns out he was trying to start an adult entertainment company. He wanted me to invest, said it was a surefire way to make money. I was shocked. It felt like a slap in the face, like he was seeing me as just another one of those women he encouraged online. I said no, obviously, but he wouldn't let it go. He kept pushing, saying I was missing out on a golden opportunity. I couldn't believe it. This was the same guy who'd helped me move into my new place, who'd been there for me when my cat died. And now he was trying to drag me into this? It was like I didn't even know him. Then the news dropped. He confessed that he'd been in debt, big time. He'd been using those NSFW subs to find investors for his twisted project. And when that didn't work, he turned to me. I was his last hope, he said. I felt betrayed, angry, and sad all at once. Here was my friend, someone I trusted using me as his bailout. I wanted to walk away, to cut him off, but I couldn't. He was desperate, on the verge of losing everything. And despite everything, he was still my friend. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I loaned him the money, not to invest in his company, but to pay off his debts. I told him this was it, his chance to start over, to do things right. He broke down, thanked me, promised to pay me back. But I could see it in his eyes, the shame, the guilt. He knew he'd crossed the line, and there was no going back to how things were. I felt weak, like I'd let him walk all over me, but I also knew I couldn't just leave him to drown. The next day, he disappeared. Just like that, no goodbye, no thank you, nothing. I was left feeling like a fool. I'd put my neck out for him and he'd run away. I was out of money and out of a friend. But then, 3 days later, he came back. He'd sold everything he owned, paid off his debts, and had a check for me. He said he was going to start fresh, somewhere new, and that he was sorry for everything. I didn't know what to say. I took the check, told him I forgave him, but inside, I was a mess. I felt like I'd been through a war, one I never signed up for. He left, and that was that. I was alone, with a check in my hand and a hole in my heart. I'd forgiven the unforgivable, and I didn't know if that made me strong or just desperate. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.